When getting into the 3D printing hobby, one of the most annoying things / confusing things was knowing exactly which filaments to use for what use case. So let's go ahead and tackle that right now. First, it's PLA, or polylactic acid. It's one of the most widely used and really easy to get started with. There's no frills about it. It's not as hygroscopic as some of the other filaments we'll talk about, so it doesn't absorb a lot of moisture, even when you live in a really humid place like Florida or Tennessee. A lot of people try to talk down on PLA, saying that it's not the strongest. And it's true, I wouldn't necessarily use it for something that's high impact or high heat. I would use it for simple things around the house, like this cup holder or my remote holder. It's really good for things like shelves, decorations, toys. PLA is plenty strong. It's just not something that you want to use for like replacing car parts or any type of part that has a repetitive motion or anything like that. Even the self-propelling fan that I printed, wow, that's super cool. I wouldn't dare print it in PLA. I would use PETG for that. This is one of the most common and well-known filaments that's out there, and it's just fast and simple to get started with. I would just use this for anything you would use within the house, whether it's decorations or otherwise. Speaking of PLA, there are different variants of PLA. There's PLA plus wood, there's silk PLA, there's matte PLA, there's PLA plus. All in all, they all typically work the same exact way. Even the wood PLA, I was a little scared that it was gonna work a little differently, but it prints basically the same as any regular PLA. So I wouldn't get too caught up in the frills of all the different variants of PLA and just treat it as PLA. Next is PETG or PETG. I tend to call it PETG, but this stands for polyethylene terephthalate glycol. Say that 3 times fast. PETG tends to be a little more weather resistant, a little more heat resistant and UV resistant than PLA. I would never put PLA outside, though I am testing something right now. PETG seems to be the stronger, more flexible cousin of PLA. The problem with PETG is that it is more hygroscopic, so anytime you want to print with it, I would suggest drying it thoroughly. When PETG isn't dried thoroughly, it tends to string or have bad layer adhesion. So speaking from experience, I would definitely dry my PETG. For PETG, I would use it for things that would go outside, for things in the garden, or things that may live in the car for a little bit. So things that you feel like would drop a lot. For me, for example, I printed this and it ended up falling on the ground, and this part was made out of PLA. I reprinted it in PETG and it's been fine recently. Or even like that shelf, if it's gonna be on their constant load, I would either make sure to support it better or reprint that in PETG, only because I'm starting to see some cracks in it because it's constantly has these books on it. So PLA is strong, but I trust PETG a little better for being under constant load. Next is TPU. That's thermoplastic polyurethane. This is now getting into the flexible filaments.
I shall call him Squishy, and he shall be mine, and he shall be my Squishy.
I haven't really tried any other flexible filament, but I haven't had the best experience with TPU. My first TPU filament that I bought is from around 2020, maybe 2021. And the first machine that I printed it on is FlashForge Adventurer 3. All I did was print a door stopper, and it ended up printing fine, though it did have some stringing, and that's probably because I didn't dry it enough. TPU is another filament that is very hygroscopic, and it soaks in all the moisture that it can find. TPU though is very tough, and you can print things like gaskets and door stoppers and balls. Like I currently printed a ball for my dog, and she's loving it and she hasn't broken it, which is amazing. She's not very destructive though, not like a Labrador. My original TPU that I bought, I don't know what the shore hardness is because that was before they started putting that on the packaging. All short hardnesses is how soft, how flexible a material is. And it could range from 85A to 90A and then down the letters. So the harder a material, it could be like a D rating. I don't fully know everything about it. I just know that you need a durometer to test it, and most of the TPUs that you will buy nowadays are already labeled with it. So you don't necessarily need to worry about. All you really need to know is that you shouldn't really be using an AMS to print TPU, and also it seems like for my X1C, it could only really print 95A. And I wanted to print something softer, so I decided that I needed to buy a new filament roll. And for this one, I made sure it was a 95A, and I was able to print just fine with it. I think maybe the filament that I bought previously was just too soft, and that is an issue. So along with PETG, TPU, you absolutely must dry before you use it, or put it into a dryer box as soon as you take it out of the vacuum sealed packaging. But even still, I'd still dry it. I would definitely keep both TPU and PETG under the 20% humidity range. And I would even go as far as keeping them stored in something that is well sealed off. For example, this is my current TPU 95A, and I have it sealed into this Polymaker dryer box, though the humidity has reached over 41%, so I should change out the desiccant and run it to be dry again. Let me know if you have any further questions on drying or desiccant, or what dryer boxes to use, etc. Just leave them down in the comments and I'll try to respond. Next is ABS. That's acrylonitrile butadiene styrene. This is actually one of the most common plastics used in car parts. They're Legos. It's just mind-boggling to me that the plastics that most stains are manufactured with is now accessible in our own home. ABS is actually more heat resistant than something like PETG, and can withstand being within the car on a hot summer day, for example, because most of the parts in a car are made of plastic like ABS, if not ABS. But printing ABS does come with its few problems. One is that ABS does need to be printed within an enclosure. It needs basically to be hot within the full printing process, otherwise it'll warp. So if you try to print it in something that's not enclosed, you will definitely see some warping issues. Another thing that an enclosure would be helpful for is the fumes. It's not necessarily super toxic, but it can be, and it emits stains that you probably don't want to be breathing. For me, I actually have my printer down in the garage. One of the reasons for that is because I wanted to get more into ABS and ASA printing, and I didn't want to necessarily be breathing that stuff in. ABS is one of the stronger plastics that you can print at home. It's more heat resistant, more impact resistant, and even UV resistant, so it's more weather resistant. With this material, I actually used it to print parts for a friend that works on cars that he was rebuilding, and he needed some plastic parts printed for it. This was for a 1972 Chevy Chevelle. My friend was adding a Holley Sniper display screen to the Chevelle, and he knew I had a 3D printer and wanted to see if I could 3D print him a mount for this display. So he sent me the STL files and I printed it for him. And everything still seems to be working just fine. And the last filament that I use most often is ASA. That's acrylonitrile styrene acrylate. And out of all of these, this is the most UV resistant. So the use cases for this is I created a garage for my Robo lawnmower. It's been a lifesaver for protecting it from the elements. This material is UV resistant, heat resistant, impact resistant. It's the strongest of them all. So I would definitely use ASA as well as ABS for things that you want to live in the car, cup holders, any type of accessory for the car, because it can withstand that heat. Other things that I would definitely use ASA for on top of any other filament is anything that would live outside because of its UV resistance, like birdhouses or stakes, you're putting a stake in the ground. Say you have a camera that you want to put up and you need to print like a case for it, right? Things that will live outside. I would print things like accessories for your mailbox, accessories for your house, decor for outside. These are all the things that are just coming to mind and I think would be great options for ASA. But also things that would be harder, gears and other impact resistant type things. I can't wait, I'm excited. I need to order some more ASA. I was actually gonna say that it's one of the most expensive ones, but it turns out TPU is the most expensive one out of all of these that I've bought as of late. I think ASA was one of the more expensive ones back in the day, but ASA, ABS, they're kind of going hand in hand. In fact, almost hand in hand with PETG. It really wasn't that expensive. I would spend anywhere between 16, 17, 20, and I'm the frugal pinto. And I'm pretty frugal when it comes to my filaments. All right, now let's talk about the different types of filament that you can buy. I am not biased at all. I like Bamboo Labs because of their little RFID tags that syncs it up to the printer, telling it the color and the type and everything. That's a nice convenience, but not really necessary. Because I'm so frugal, I usually end up just buying refills because in the past I've bought a lot of spools that are refillable. So I tend to buy the refills and I buy those in bulk, sort of. Sunlu tends to have great deals on these refill packages. It's like a 4-pack for like 40 bucks. So it ends up just being like 10 bucks each, right? And I'm exaggerating numbers, just making it easier to do the math. But things like TPU and ASA and ABS don't really come in refills that I've seen. So for that, I'm just buying the full spool. But I've literally bought everything. Maybe not everything, but brands like Sunlu, Elegoo, Polylite, other brands that I don't fully know what their brand is because it's like spelt backwards on the box. I've even bought filament from Hobby Lobby and it works just fine. So my advice would be buy the cheapest, buy the color you want. In my opinion, there really isn't a difference in quality. Let me know in the comments below if you want me to go over any other unique filaments. And don't forget to like and subscribe. It really does matter for the algorithm. And if you can leave a comment, even better. It lets YouTube know that you like what I'm talking about and that you want to see more of it. I hope this video was helpful and don't forget to make your home your own.